Hey guys, Maddie here. Welcome to this week's video. Today we'll be focusing on politeness theory and face needs. So let's start with our acknowledgement. I come to you from the lands of the Wurundjeri people and I wish to acknowledge them as traditional owners. I would also like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging and Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be attending today. I acknowledge all people's experience of disability, mental and physical illnesses and welcome all to today's session. And find out what Aboriginal country you are based by clicking the link on the slides. Okay, so today we're talking about face needs and politeness theory. I want to start by watching this video and then I'll give you some further notes and explanations and we'll do our quiz at the end. So let's go from about 40 seconds. All right. Let's have a listen.
Levels of excellence. Everything on this channel is about communication skills or leadership skills. And that's why today we're talking about politeness theory and face. These are two related ideas that will help you have difficult conversations more smoothly so you can solve those organizational problems that are hard to talk about. So let's start with politeness theory. Politeness theory came to us several decades ago, and essentially it says that we have a universal desire across the globe in every culture to be treated with politeness. Now, politeness looks a little different depending upon where you go, but we all want to be treated politely. And so when we're talking about difficult topics, if we use politeness, it'll be that much easier. So that's why we have to talk about this notion of face. So within this idea of politeness, we all have a desired self-image, a way that publicly we want to be seen. So when someone comes to talk to us about a problem, one of the reasons why it's difficult to talk about sticky issues is because we don't know how to talk to people without putting them in a bad light, without threatening their face. So every time we come in with an issue or make a request, we have a potential to make what's called a face-threatening act, an FTA, face-threatening act. So when we talk to people, we have to have a sense for how to navigate this conversation. So face has two parts. First, the positive and then the negative. Positive face is where we want to be esteemed and admired and looked up to and respected by the people around us. That's how we want to be seen in a positive light. There's also negative face. In a negative sense, we want to be free from people imposing on our freedom, on our ability to make choices and on our decisions. Because if someone is able to impose on us and take our choices away, that diminishes us, that lowers our position in the group socially. So we need both positive and negative face to be in place for us to feel like our face needs are met. So here are some ways that we can talk about this and apply this to professional settings to have difficult conversations. So we'll start with a really easy one. I often have to request letters of recommendation for myself. Let's say I'm going up for a promotion of some sort at work. And when I ask people for a letter of recommendation, I have to think about what this means. They get nothing out of this. So how I ask for this really matters. So if I were to use positive face, I would build them up and show them that I respect and esteem them. I would say, hey, I wanted to ask you for a letter of recommendation. I'm asking you because you're an expert in the field. You're extremely familiar with my work. Nobody knows my material like you do, and I think you'd be the perfect person to write a letter for me. So I'm building them up. I'm showing them I respect them, and I admire that person. The other one is negative face. I want to be sure that they know that I'm not imposing on them. I don't want to be someone who's pushing in and trying to take away their choices, that they're obligated to write this letter. So I would approach it like this if I were using negative face. I would say, I wanted to ask you for a letter of recommendation. Now, of course, feel free to say no. I know the deadline may not work for you and it's pretty short notice and I'm sure you're very, very busy. But if you have the time and you're able to, it would be amazing to get a letter of recommendation from you. So there's an example of negative face. So you can use both of these, of course, but this is a way to get into a hard conversation. And that's a simple request for a letter. Let's use a more serious request. Let's say you're in a professional setting and somebody around you is racking up the expenses when they travel on a business trip, and you're the one who has to talk about it. Now, this is a real problem that can hurt the organization. How do you have this conversation without making it worse? Keep in mind politeness theory and both positive and negative face, and you're going to have an easier time doing this. Here's how it would sound talking about this with positive face. You might say, hey, Brad, you know you're one of our best salespeople, and you know how hard your work. We all appreciate that and respect what you do here and how you contribute. We do have to talk about this expense report, however, because the expenses are going above the allowed limit, and so let's make a time to go over this. So here I built Brad up, and it makes room to have a more difficult part of that conversation a reality. Otherwise, I might not know how to get there. If we use negative face, we would protect Brad from feeling like we're imposing upon him, even though we have to talk about this. So we say, hey, Brad, we need to talk about the expense report. It's going above what's allowed in our organization. And look, we don't have to do this now. We can do it tomorrow if that works better for you. But we really do need to make a time to do it. So here I'm trying to remove the sense that I'm imposing on him and I'm bossing him around and I'm taking his freedoms away. Now you can combine these, of course, and use both positive and negative face to reduce the chances that you're going to deliver an intense face-threatening act. So when people feel threatened like this, they're less likely to give you what you want. And so having these concepts of politeness and face and using these in our difficult conversations will make it much easier to talk about hard things. So question of the day, how do you see yourself in your professional settings applying these concepts? I would love to hear your comments in that section below.
All right, we'll stop it there. So this stuff is, I know that he was talking about in a business setting and like a work environment, but we use it to analyze how people are relating to each other and analyze how people are using language to relate to each other in different ways. This stuff is really good for your essays and your ACs when you want to analyze deeply. This counts as like one of those big ideas that we talk about when referencing big ideas in our analysis. So this is something that can really help to support your analysis and extend it. So I'm just going to go over a couple more slides, one on positive face, one on negative face, just to make sure you really understand those definitions and some examples, and then we'll do our quiz. Okay, so positive face refers to the identity that a person has created for themselves. So this could be the way they look, the way they dress, the things they're interested in, their hobbies, their talents, their job, all those kinds of things. So we can both affirm, as the man was talking about in the video, or we can challenge people's positive face. So an example of an affirming statement of positive face is your hair looks great today. An example that challenges someone's positive face needs is your hair looks terrible today. The challenging one is directly attacking the identity that they've created for themselves. The affirming one is affirming or supporting the identity that they've created for themselves. So that's positive face. It's all about identity. Then we have negative face. Now, it's pretty tricky to understand that positive face and negative face are not the opposites. Even though we understand positive and negative as opposites, face needs, they're not opposites. So negative face is about the need for personal autonomy. The first one, positive, is about personal identity that you've created for yourself. You need to be liked for your personal identity. Negative face is the need for personal autonomy. So they're slightly different. A way we can affirm someone's personal autonomy. Could you maybe close the door when you have the chance, please? So we have modal verbs in there. We have politeness markers in there. We have sort of like modifiers that all change the way that the question's being asked. So that is affirming someone's positive face because it's not impeding on their personal autonomy. It's not asking them directly to do something. It's suggesting they do it and giving them a loose sort of time frame, like they can sort of do it whenever they want. So that supports or affirms negative face. Then we have challenging negative face. Shut the door right now. If someone yells that at you, that is impeding on your freedom, impeding on your personal autonomy. It's threatening because you feel like you have to do it in that instance, and that you're not in control of yourself and your freedom and the way you conduct your life, basically. So that's negative face. Now I just want to show you this little diagram. It's the same examples, it's just laid out in a different way. If you want to take a screenshot for your notes, that might be a good idea. If you want to jot it down in your book, that might help. Sometimes seeing it in a visual way can just help to solidify it in your mind rather than just having dot points on it. So you can see we have politeness theory at the top. That's what we're discussing. Positive face on the left, negative face on the right. And then we have challenging and affirming. You can both challenge and affirm both of them. So you can challenge and affirm positive face, you can challenge and affirm negative face. And then we just have some examples down the bottom of how you might challenge or affirm those. That's all I've got for today. So let's do our revision quiz and then we can finish up. Give an example of a sentence that supports positive face. Give an example of a sentence that threatens negative face. Why do we appeal to people's face needs, and why is politeness theory important? So now's the time to pause, jot down some answers, and come back when you're ready to hear them. Alrighty, let's give an example of a sentence that supports positive face. Your outfit is really cute today. The reason that supports positive face is because it is affirming the identity that a person has created for themselves. Give an example of a compliment. If you've got a compliment, that would be a good one. Give an example of a sentence that threatens negative face. Close the door right now. It's threatening negative face because it is impeding on someone's freedom. Why do we appeal to people's face needs? We appeal to people's face needs in order to get what we want or need. So all of language use is basically just manipulating people. When I tell students that, they sort of laugh, which is fair enough. But if you think about it, everything you're saying is to get something that you want. So it doesn't always have to be selfish. You might want to support someone, which is why you might listen to them and chat to them and see how they are. Or if you want someone to pass you something, you would ask them to pass you something. So a lot of language is actually quite manipulative, and it sort of just gives you what you want or need. And we appeal to people's face needs so that we get what we want or need more easily. And this isn't a bad thing. When you read it, it sort of sounds like you're being villainous, but it's not. It's just natural. It's what we all do. And we need to get things from other people in order to survive. So that's why we appeal to people's face needs. So we get them as easily and quickly as possible. And our last question for today is, why is politeness theory important? Politeness theory, or adhering to face needs, allows people to live in a functional cooperative society. So this is sort of what I was saying about cooperation and getting what you need, because we need each other to live happy and successful lives, basically. So that's all I've got today for politeness theory and face needs. I will see you next week in our next video. See you guys. Have a great week.